when I met Ron. He was my FTO, and before that I started out there as a community service officer. And my first day there, I met Ron in our break room, and the first thing I thought was I'd never seen an Indian police officer before. And my lieutenant told me on my first day, he said, just go ahead and ride out with Ron for most of your shifts, since it's kind of like your orientation day. He'll take you around the city. And immediately he just wanted to get into stuff, go hunt and find people. And I noticed we didn't have a lot of calls for service, so he was more proactive, and he just started talking about the department. And so I told him my goal was eventually to be a police officer, and he told me right off the bat, he's like, go to a bigger agency and where it's busier and you have a lot more fun. But little did I know, a couple years later I'd be working right next to him.
I met Ron in 2011 when he got hired with the Newman Police Department. Ron introduced himself, very polite.
One of my favorite memories of Ron is when I had left my Facebook open on my computer, and I had walked away from it for a bit, and I started getting notifications on my phone, people laughing at my newest status update. And it turned out Ron had uploaded this crazy random looking monkey on my phone, on my Facebook. And he had commented on the post and asked a new date. That was just one of the many funny little things that Ron would do just to brighten up our day.
0503, can you log me off?
The first time I met Ron, he was my second field training officer. I was his first trainee because he had just gone through FTO school.
I've met Ron several times throughout, several years.
Prior to working for Los Banos Police Department, I worked for the Gustine Police Department, which is a neighboring city to Newman. A lot of times Newman officers work by themselves, so if they have a higher priority call or a call that would normally have a two-officer response, they would call for Gustine to act as a cover officer. So that's how I met Ron, is coming to Newman to back him up, or me calling for Newman and Ronil going to back me up on a call.
I met Ron approximately 7 years ago when I was already working here at the department. He started. After his FTO program, we were working patrol together during our swing and graveyard shift.
The first time I met him, it was at a K9 fundraiser. It was a crab fest. And towards the very end, he comes up to me, and I'd never seen him, I'd never met him. And he looks at me and he tells me, hey, when do you start with me as a FTO? And I tell him in a couple days. And he looks at me and he tells me, okay, we're gonna have some fun. And that was really intimidating, but it was the funnest I have ever had on FTO.
So, Ron the jokester, some of my favorite things with Ron. One stands out, and this is how I really want to remember Ron. It's just always funny. Ron drives by my house. We live right by each other, and when he drives by my house, he'd always hit his air horn. One time, I can remember my wife being outside, and she knew that he was even coming. She saw the vehicle coming, and he hit the air horn and still scared her. She jumped up, and she, gets that little scream, and he'll text her, "Did I scare you?" and laugh about it, and he texts me the same thing. Hey, I think I scared your wife. It was pretty funny. So, Ron was just that guy. He would make you laugh. He would do little things like that.
We were in the back lot, and he was like, well, we got low tire pressure, so go put air in it. And so I did, and I was putting the compressor back and he hit the air horn on the car. And I turned around and he had the phone in his hand and he was laughing inside the car, and I knew he was just having a good time. And I got back in the car and he was like, "Oh, look," and just, you know, made me laugh the whole time. I saw myself like jump 2 or 3 feet, and he was just having fun. He just had fun. That's what he loved to do, and make everybody happy.
He'd set up these scenarios where he'd stage actors, and he'd set up these situations where they'd come in, they'd tell me their problems, or we'd meet them out there, and they were the most awkward situations ever. I was a new officer, and they'd come in, they'd start telling me these bizarre stories, and I'm sitting there and I'm trying to answer their questions to the best of my ability, and I'm going with the flow, but then the stories wouldn't match up, and I'd look at the person, and then I'd finally realize, and I'd look at him and his face is red, and he'd just start laughing, and I'd look at him and I'd be like, "Hey, when are you guys gonna tell me?" And he'd just start laughing.
My favorite story would be, those who knew him, would be the jet ski story. And I'll just kind of leave it at that.
One of my favorite stories of Ron is one day he called me and we were talking, and he wanted to go on vacation. So I asked him, "Well, where do you want to go?" And he said, "Well, we'll take a vacation to Fiji." And I asked him, "Okay, well, where would we stay in Fiji?" And he said that we can take tents and go around Fiji like we're homeless.
I know for the most part, sometimes they couldn't understand what he was saying, but he used to tell me that everybody thought his accent was sexy and exotic. And we would laugh all the time, because he would tell me that.
Ron he's a good guy, very likable, personable. If I can describe Ron in one word, it would be incredible. That's how Ron was.
Live life to the fullest, because I know he did.
Within the last year and a half, I had 2 major injuries, which one of them allowed me to have limited use of my left arm and hand. And Ron was always there, always stopped by my house, willing to do whatever he needed to do to help me. One day when I was starting to get a little bit better and I still had limited use of my left arm and hand, he said, "Come over, I want to wax your truck for you." So I took my truck over there, and he waxed my whole truck by hand, which I thought was really nice and kind of him to do. He always invited me over to do things just to make sure I wasn't alone and stuff like that, because he genuinely cared about people.
When they had their son born, I went to the hospital to see their son, and just seeing how excited he was, to be there, and you just see in his eyes, he was very proud to be a father.
He was a good guy. He was always happy. He always made us laugh, no matter what the case was. He always maybe had a joke, or he just knew how to light up the room.
We'd be driving around, and he'd look at me, he'd be like, "Hey, you had a tough day. It was fun and difficult." And then he'd look at me and he'd be like, "This is the reason we got into this profession." And I'd look at him, and I would see an officer, he's a veteran, but at the same time, every day was like his first day. And he had all that energy, and I really looked up to him. Brother, I hope to one day see you again. I wish you were back here with us, and I'd give anything for you to mess with me and joke around with me again.